So what were the motives for the 1.2 million plus population city of Yarragon in Gippsland and the other smaller population centres around it being destroyed by a lunatic arson riot led by foreigners claiming to be tourists in 1858? People make up all sorts of diversion excuses. The most pathetic one is that there was open homosexuality in Gippsland in the 1800s. Like that was unusual or something. Including people repeatedly stating, correctly, that the two largest buildings here, around 17 to 20 modern floors, were built by homosexuals and housed homosexuals only. I will mention something else that is a difficult one for me and others before I continue. I am related to one of the three wise men from material in the Bible. I have been compared in looks to consistent tales of one all my adult life. Particularly my arm hair, which has a green bronze gold appearance. That wise man was the brother of the father of one of Jesus' two children. I am also related to many other Bible characters as well, including some very prominent names like Judas, for one. It is one of those things. It is as truthful as I can be, regardless of how little people like it. I have been aware that the so-called Shroud of Turin was likely an artistic depiction of one of the wise men, not Jesus, from a very young age. Some people go a bit bonkers when they see certain images of me if they have seen photographs of it. It is not easy looking like one of the three wise men. People subliminally, if not openly consciously, compare me to the Shroud of Turin often. People who look similar to, or are related to, the other two wise men have also been around me most of my life in Gippsland. The Shroud of Turin is actually an artistic depiction of all three wise men merged into the one combined form, done on a stiff linen similar to canvas. A work of art depiction of them all looking into a cot or crib, merged into one head, like a painting or drawing. There is one person who would have known what all three looked like fairly accurately in the context of the artwork setting. Regardless of anyone's opinion of what I just said, it has genuine artistic merit in a very serious way. Personally made by Jesus herself. Depicting the wise men waiting for her to be born patiently, asking for a look, and all looking at her together. Sentences like, "Oh, she's beautiful," spring to mind. Okay, here goes. There was no live crucifixion of Jesus. The concept is a blatant lie. The artifact that got the nickname the Holy Grail was never placed under Jesus to catch her blood at a crucifixion. The object itself had nothing to do with any such thing. Because there was never any such incident of a cup placed under her to catch her blood. The concept is complete fiction and obviously disgusting and offensive. Rumors that people only started pretending Jesus was crucified alive with a cup to catch the blood after the television was invented post-World War II lunatic style, true to form, are not really worth debating. Same goes for cameras and film. Jesus was a naturally transgendered in modern terminology, or double extra-organed female with a beard. After her death, some people who had assumed she was a man checked the body expecting to find male genitalia based on her beard alone and found she was the other gender. A female. As was obvious. Probably lunatics not dissimilar to today, they incorrectly labeled her appearance and gender some kind of devil work or sorcery, the usual Morin stuff. Her body was tampered with after she was dead, and there were claims it was left on display. The Holy Grail had nothing to do with that, though. It was one of her personal belongings, clothing, shoes, cutlery, bowls, mugs, furniture, bedding, jewelry, notes, scrolls, writing implements, in-progress art, etc., stolen after her death by those who attended her body. It was a clean unfinished couple hybrid with a smooth cup-like interior, but more towards an unfinished rough tree log on the outside. Some went on world tour with an item or two stolen after her death as if they would become famous. When they were asked to explain where they got the genuine appearing items from, they made up fictional stories in a panic. Crocodile came out of the toilet and ate the homework style. The fiction had some basis in fact transposed from another incident. A disaster. Specifically a meteorite strike that caused a crust sphere shift where everything was really weird afterwards in the confusion amongst the injured. With the sun rising and setting in a different part of the sky to before it hit, etc. The usual stimulus for people to get a bit carried away about certain extremely helpful individuals who organized things afterwards and helped the wounded. The person herself was instrumental in helping the sick and wounded, no matter how many times it took to go up and down the hill over and over again to stretcher the wounded to safety. They were moved on rudimentary two-plank wooden structures horizontal to the ground, stretcher style, that sometimes required the wounded to be tied down with ankle and wrist straps to stop them falling off. A wooden cross shape, if you like. The rest was like medical assistants trying to get fresh instead of tainted water, dressings, exercises, breathing in groups, food, etc. Some of those factual natural disaster details got thrown into a fictitious story made up to explain where the stolen items came from after Jesus' death. A story that tried to make it appear Jesus gave away her personal items to the thieves who stole them after her death in a self-sacrificial act, as if gifts. As if she even promised them to particular individuals if she died before she did. Including individuals that tampered with her body after her death. The story was structured to attempt to explain away what happened to her body after her death, including as if she pre-forgave them before they tampered with her dead body, when people questioned what some reported seeing after it was tampered with illegally. Those claims it was left on display. People went on world tour with items stolen after Jesus' death, but did not get the rockstar reception they were expecting. In a lot of cases they ended up going into hiding. Suffice to say that a large pile of loot stolen off Jesus after her death, that the real people she left them to never received, mixed with a collection of other items stolen from elsewhere, ended up hidden in a cave. In a mountain range in Italy that looks like a cross between a human hand and a Venus flytrap, but sharp steep rocks. Lunatics aware of where the stolen loot items were, including handmade by Jesus herself bowls, mugs, plates, and the odd large bowl cup hybrid, etc., looking for a diversion to deter people with, used to peddle the fictitious story they developed. They peddled it to attempt to keep people away from the stash and its real hiding place, and to see if they could get people to go searching for the fictitious story's Holy Grail cup, so they could sigh in relief at people staying away from the hiding place and laugh at them later lunatic style for going looking for a fictitious story item. The description of that fictitious story item, the Holy Grail, was based on an actual handmade by Jesus wooden bowl cup hybrid, hidden in the cave amongst the loot. Things got out of hand when someone tried to adjust the appearance of a real handmade bowl cup hybrid, which had been absolutely crucial in Jesus helping the wounded in the aforementioned disaster meteorite incident get access to clean fresh water as the only watertight receptacle available. They tried to adjust its appearance to look like it had caught and stored blood over a prolonged period of time that permanently stained it to match a fictitious story. They took the item, considered religiously important because of its crucial role in helping the figure help the sick and injured in the disaster, and tried to burn blood-colored tree sap, or similar, into it to make it appear to match the fictional ritual story. Using hands-on sap application and flames. Damaging the sacred item in the process made them panic even more. It was hidden in a buried garbage pile with or near the rest of the stolen loot to keep the damage done to it hidden. It was a very rough unfinished bowl cup hybrid made of wood that was smooth to nearly finished on the inside, but still extremely rough on the outside, with a basic sketch of what carved decorations would be on it when complete. Still reminiscent of a tree stump on the outside, but could hold water. A vague carved outline of grapes etc. on the outside, or something like that. Handmade by Jesus herself, and was the only thing available that could hold water to help the sick and injured after the incident. To expedite matters, Gippslanders have been traveling the world for centuries. Actually, as many centuries as everyone else. Indigenous Australians once lived permanently on what is now Antarctica, but a geological crust sphere shift, likely caused by a meteorite strike, meant that our ancestors had to move to what is now Australia, which was uninhabited by humans at the time. It was a complete polar shift where everything in the northern hemisphere was suddenly in the southern hemisphere afterwards. Australia was at or near the North Pole and uninhabited by humans at the time, with Antarctica next to it. It was the reverse of now in the southern hemisphere. Indigenous Australians' ancestors visited Australia often, but it wasn't possible to live on Australia permanently. Too cold and disconnected. The almost complete opposite of now, except for climate. After the crust sphere shift happened, everyone and everything had to be moved to Australia from the cooling to frozen Antarctica. Moved to the melting and warming Australia. Every known species of rice in the world is one of the things that grew out of the ground in Gippsland after it thawed and melted. Amongst a myriad of other things. Everyone usually says a number that is around 61,000 plus years ago, but never over 70,000.